for this evening, which is Tuesday, the 10th, 2022. We're going to be opening up with our public hearing right now. We're waiting on our town attorney.
I'll wing it, Madam Chair.
Thank
if
you, please do.
This is a public hearing to modify the preferred bidder ordinance. Per our ordinance, we require that it be posted in the paper, which it was. We're here tonight to talk about one modification of section 118.12, and it's open for the public.
Those who are wanting to come up and be heard on this matter, please come, give your name and address, and feel free to speak. Hi, Cheryl.
Hello, Cheryl Lounsbury, 175 Berlin Avenue, Southington. I was on the original town council when this first ordinance was passed and probably several times when it was amended. And when I had the ordinance before me the first time, it caused me a lot of thought because I'm not necessarily in favor of the lowest bidder. I am in favor of the lowest qualified bidder. And I was afraid that the ordinance would go to the lowest bidder. But we talked and we came into some quite a bit of discussion at the time, and I think it was passed unanimously. And the intent of the ordinance was because Southington citizens who have businesses in town, and it was also during a recessionary period, a difficult economic time, if many of you remember, they not only contribute heavily to our tax base, but they also hire our people in town. And on top of that, they give. So many of you may know I was the recent president of the United Way, and those are the people I go to for substantial donations when we're putting on things, and the money goes again directly into the town. So they affect our tax base. They hire people in town. We go to them for money for organizations in town. And in many, many instances, their families also contribute by being volunteers in many things. So with all that in mind, and with the economic times, it seemed really important that we did offer this ordinance to businesses in town if they met the qualifications, if they were able to do the work. And I think we explained that very, very clearly. In fact, I think the ordinance was written very clearly, and I'm not sure where this miscommunication came in. Over the years, I understand miscommunication come in, but the intent of it was that we give our businesses in town, because they give so much to us and we depend so much on them, the ability to really bid on our work and succeed in the bids if possible. So I'd like to say I haven't read the rework that I know you've been doing. But before you even pass or deny that rework, I suggest you talk to some of the small businesses in town or the medium-sized businesses in town with what isn't working for them, and make sure that you include their thoughts, because that's very important. Also, because I was on the town council for so many years, people forget I'm not on the town council anymore, and businesses still call me. People still call me about cracks in the road and whatever. Well, one of the calls I've been receiving immediately, consistently, is our bidding process in town. And our bidding process seems to be antiquated from other businesses in other towns and how they do it. So I suggest, even though that isn't related to this particular ordinance, we take a look at our bidding process. And I would ask you to do that sincerely. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak about this ordinance?
Troy Karwowski. I reside at 144 Valley View Court. I also own a property at 231 Captain Lewis Drive. I believe I may be the cause of this rework of the ordinance, at least the start of it. I was one of the bidders on the Southington project. I bid the HVAC portion of the job. I've been a Southington business. We built our first building in 2006 at 231 Captain Lewis Drive, and we've since put 2 additions. We're in the process of putting a third on. We've probably quadrupled in size since then, okay? When we bid the project for the Southington Library, we were the second apparent bidder. We fell within the criteria of the ordinance, making us eligible to utilize the ordinance. We notified Whiting Turner of this, and they seemed to be receptive. They said they'd get back to us. We didn't hear back from them for about a month. We followed back up with them to see the status of the bid. They informed us that the lowest bidder, Air Temp Mechanical, had an error in their bid and arbitrarily carried tax. They allowed them to remove the tax from their bid, which we then contacted our counsel. I CC'd Mark Skoda, identifying the issue with removing tax. Our legal counsel was, I would say, very effective of making them aware that it's illegal to do that. You cannot modify a bid after it's been received. Once I believe their back was up against the wall with that, they decided to go to, you are not a town business, okay? I was shocked. I said, why are we not a town business? They informed me since I don't own real property, meaning the actual property that my business resides at, which I do own personally through an LLC, as most business owners do, okay? The actual business is not owned by the company, yet it's owned by an LLC. We still pay taxes to the town. My company, since 2007, has paid an estimated $250,000 in taxes to this town. I personally have paid over $100,000 in taxes to this town. I could not believe what I was hearing. I could not believe the town didn't intervene, seeing they were aware of this. They let a construction company's corporate counsel dictate and enforce their ordinance. I appreciate that you are changing or attempting to change the language. I believe Whiting Turner's counsel manipulated the language because his back was up against the wall when the tax reasoning didn't pan out for him. But going forward, I would hope the town would not allow another corporation's attorney to manipulate the language or enforce it. And that's what happened here. I lost a $1.5 million project, okay? And then once we rebutted against that, they threw the entire bid out. They rebid the HVAC portion of the library, okay? I rebid it once again, months later. I was not successful. I came in third. But what ended up happening is Air Temp won it again, yet their number was $32,000 higher than the original bid, thus costing the taxpayers an additional $32,000 just for the HVAC portion of this project. So that being said, as a town resident, a town business, I still consider myself a town business, whether the town accepts that or not, I do. I still believe that it is incorrect. I view the ordinance, the language, as proper. Now, a crafty attorney might be able to manipulate it so they can, push it their way, but I don't believe that's fact. I have all the documentation between my counsel and Whiting Turner's counsel, CCing the town. Everyone was made aware of it. The town had the opportunity to make this right, and they never intervened. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? And I want to thank you for your business in Southington as well. Anyone else? Once, going, anybody else? I guess we're going to close the public hearing. Is that correct, everybody? Okay, we're going to close the public hearing. Thank you for your comments, and let's move on to our regular meeting. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Paul Chaplinsky.
Here.
Michael Del Santo.
Present.
Valerie DiPaolo. Here. William Diedzik.
Here.
Tom Lombardi.
Here.
James Morelli. Here. Christopher Palmieri.
Here.
Jack Perry.
Here.
Victoria Triano.
Yes, I'm here. Would you all stand for the prayer and the flag salute, please?
Heavenly Father, we ask that you remind us always that we serve the people of Southington first and not party affiliation or vain ambition. We ask that you would keep us from conflicts of conscience and dilemmas of ethics. May you continue to bless this community and her people. Amen.
Amen.
Madam Chair? Excuse me, can we ask for a moment of silence for Robert Casano?
Oh, of course, and you know who else, Gil Wade also, who is such a wonderful businessman in town. Let's have a moment of silence. Can you say the name again? Yes, it's Robert
Robert
Casano
Casano.
and Gil Wade, who passed for just a moment, please. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Val. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you, everyone. You may be seated. I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. However, there are a lot of people here. And so I would ask you very sincerely to please not to have little conversations with each other because it's very distracting on the dais. So having said that, just I would ask that consideration. Thank you. The first item of business are our minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Any additions, deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good.
Madam Chair, I need to abstain from the minutes.
Oh, very good. Okay, one abstention. Thank you, Val. Councilperson's communication, anybody? Yes, Chris.
I have a couple.
Sure.
First of all, Tom and I would like to thank the community as a whole. We just finished our Apple Harvest Festival. Mother Nature wasn't really the best, most cooperative this year, but thank you to all residents in town for supporting the festival, civic groups, local businesses, our sponsors. Really, it's what makes the festival the success that it is. So thank you for everyone for the Apple Harvest Festival. I had the pleasure last week with Jack and Val and Paul and Jim to attend the fire department awards ceremony. It was really uplifting to see our firemen recognized, and it was a ceremony for 2 years because of COVID. They hadn't done the ceremony for a while, so they recognized their volunteer and career firefighters, and also celebrated all the promotions from within the department. So we're very lucky to have such a strong both career and volunteer fire department. So thank you to them. Question for the town clerk. Several residents have reached out. Did you send out a mailer regarding absentee ballots specifically from the Republican Town Committee?
No, we don't send out any mailers.
Okay,
The only thing we send out if a person calls us and requests an application.
excellent. Okay,
That's the
so
only time.
just because many residents have reached out, just so the public is aware, there is a mailing that was sent out using the Southington Town Clerk as the provider of that mailing. And then the letter inside is from the Southington Republican Town Committee. So it's a little disturbing, and that's why I wanted to ask you to make sure that did not come
No
from.
mailings came from the town clerk's office.
Okay, so please, residents, just be aware, if you receive something like that, it is not from the town clerk, you're hearing it firsthand from her, and it's unfortunately a political mailer. And the last thing is, I know he couldn't be here last meeting, Representative Poulos is here, so I'd like to
I
offer
would
him
like
some
to
of my
acknowledge,
time.
Chris, that, thank you so much for being here, Representative Poulos. I'm not sure if you were able to catch any of the meeting or read the minutes or whatever on the public safety, which was so very important. If you would like to address that for a couple of minutes, I can give you that time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Palmieri. I did submit a statement, and I did have a chance to watch the meeting since I was traveling last meeting day, and would be more than happy to answer any questions you might have regarding my statement.
I'm not
on
sure.
public
Anybody
safety.
have any
Just,
questions?
you know, in summary, at the Capitol, I've been working really hard to try to take in what I've heard from the many people of this community about public safety in our town. And proud of my work with the chief. We actually, he gave me some priorities, was glad to get those through, the ones that he gave. And proud to vote as a block with the Southington delegation. And it's not that easy sometimes to hit the button, you know. But I think we're doing the right thing up there. And if there's at any point in time that you have a public safety concern, I will certainly be more than willing to listen and bring that to Hartford. It's my job to represent this town.
If I might just ask you, Chris and I were invited to a presentation at the police department from, the governor's office sent someone from, I forgot his name.
Opelka.
Yes, thank you, Chris. And we had a very interesting and very informative discussion. I would ask you to maybe talk to the chief about that meeting, because he reported a little bit on it at our last meeting, but it was quite important. We had wonderful members from our police department. The chief was there, of course, and we also had a state's attorney from New Britain, and also one from juvenile court. And they gave some very wonderful suggestions, just pragmatic things that going forward. So if we ever get a chance to vote on that, or if it comes up in some sort of changing of policy, I would love it so that you would know what's going on, and you have been very interested in public safety. So
I certainly, I plan to sit down with the chief in advance of the next legislative session to hear his priorities, as I did this last January. And at the same time, I'll ask to see any information he presented that day. I wish I could have been at that meeting. I didn't know
that's fine.
about it.
But thank you for coming tonight.
And if you would indulge, just a couple more minutes, I just wanted to, we had a big announcement last Friday when the library, or the bond commission approved the library grant. And I made a point to go to the building committee meeting last week, and tonight to the library board meeting, to express my gratitude to the building committee for their hard work. They were allotted a certain amount of money, and they did everything they could to maximize that money, the 17 million from the referendum, and despite good, bad, and ugly feedback. And wanted to publicly express my gratitude to them and to the library board. They're still working hard on a capital campaign, which they told me tonight, please don't tell people not to give to that now that we got this grant, because that will allow for a lot of the interior furnishings for the project. And I want to share that when we started this project back in January, and I called town manager Shota, and I said to him, hey, I'm thinking about putting in this bonding request. What are we going to need to get this building to the size that the community had originally hoped for? And in our conversations, things are estimates and so forth, but he said, Chris, probably about $3 million. And so I went at it, and I did what I kind of did when I was a kid. When I'd ask my parents for money, I always asked for more because they'd usually give me less. And I didn't know how the process worked, so I put in for the 5 and thought maybe we'll only get 3. I talked to the lieutenant governor at one point, and she said, maybe you can think about 2.5 one year and 2.5 the next year, and explained how that wouldn't really work. And so we got the award, which is great. And, this summer, I spent a lot of time interacting with the residents, and I visited about 1,000 houses. And after the size of the library, since last year, renderings came out, and the number one piece of feedback I got besides the size was, we just wish this building would look like a library. We wish this building would match the aesthetic of our town. And so we have this great opportunity, and this is in the hands of the building committee. But when we expand a building, we have to redesign it. And the south side of that building, where they're talking about putting a 2-story addition, has like a mechanical room and some offices. And you're not going to put an addition next to a mechanical room and offices. You got to change the interior layout. And when you change the interior layout, or you change the layout of a building, you have the opportunity to adjust the exterior. And so this is a priority of the town. And again, I trust that the building committee, we spoke informally after the meeting, is gonna honor that request. But let's do this right for the next 50 or 60 years. Let's make this building what our town deserves. And in that process, and Town Manager Shota knows this because I brought the bonding chair to Southington in March, and we talked about like the construction timeline and what we wanted to do. If there's a question about what we can do with this bonding money, I personally will go with Town Manager Shota, with Councilman Morelli, to OPM, okay? I'll go to the OPM secretary, I'll go to the governor, and I'll say, this is what we want with this money. And so we'll make it happen. And I will work in partnership with the leaders that are responsible for the design and the management of the fiscal side to give our town what we deserve. So I wanted to just share that publicly with you and encourage you to call on me if it's public safety or the library in any way that I might be able to help get this town what we really need.
And we want
Thanks.
to thank you also for your intervention on it, Representative Poulos.
You're welcome.
We appreciate it greatly because the feelings, we all have these same feelings. Our hands were tied because of the referendum, so this was a great move forward. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Where's your bow tie? I know. I still have mine.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you. Council Matter Communications. Yes, please, Michael.
No, go ahead, please. So, thank you, Madam Chair. Last couple of weeks, we had the opportunity to attend a couple of, one grand opening at the 7-Eleven. Myself and Mr. Perry and Mr. Morelli, Mr. Chaplinsky, and Madam Chair were there for the grand opening at 7-Eleven. It is open. The slushies look good. I did not have a slushie, but I had a nice large Diet Coke because it was like 100 degrees. Very warm that day, but we wish them nothing but success. And then the week prior, we had the opportunity to attend a business event at the Salty Dog Tavern on 322. We were invited by the Chamber of Commerce to have to attend if you could, and we had a nice event there as well. And we had a moment of silence tonight for Mr. Wade, who passed away. I was very disappointed to hear that Mr. Crisano passed away as well. It's too bad. He was a very nice guy. So that was the last time we saw him. And he was so happy. We know he does a lot of work for the Southington Chamber of Commerce, and
yes.
Mr. Wade is always involved, so it's very sad to see him go. But Mr. Morelli, myself, and Mr. Chaplinsky were there at the Salty Dog Tavern for their business event for the Chamber of Commerce. I think it's important that we support as many businesses as we can in town, and it was a really good event, and more are going to be coming, so we should try to attend as many as we could. And that's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just circling back to the apple harvest and Councilman Palmieri's comments. I was part of the finance team, and I'm very proud of the work that we did during the actual festival. But as I always do, I wanted to say that it's incumbent upon the council to report on the Apple Harvest Festival financial statements. We usually do it in January, so that'll be January of 2024. So now that the festival's over, big shout out to Jackie Santos from the finance department, because what she does is she brings everything together, and we'll have that same report that we've been accustomed to, which shows, I don't know how many years of data it is, 5 or 8 years or something like that, with the results of the operations along with the Apple Harvest fund balance. So that'll be an important report that either, I guess, maybe I'm still on the hook, or Councilman Palmieri will be responsible at that time if he's up here as well. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else? Val?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I wasn't at the last meeting. I just wanted to just speak about the police department survey. I was able to review the survey and then watch the presentation which Chief Daly provided. So I do think it's really the overall satisfaction that our town has for the police department, I think is great. And there are some issues, I think, that he touched upon that there could be room for improvement. So I'm looking forward. It sounds like he's going to take some action steps and then follow up on that. So
I think it was a very honest presentation by the chief.
yeah, I think it is difficult to put yourself out there as an organization and say, you know, what do people think, and let people be honest. So I thought that was excellent. I'm such a huge supporter of the library. I have been for years. And I was disappointed in the size, obviously, in the library, like many people. So, to Representative Poulos, I just think being able to bring this money to the town, it really changes the game. So I'm going to be interested here about the library building committee and the process that will go forward with that. So, thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah, Jack.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So want to give a shout out to Representative Poulos as well. Me and Val hosted a listening event last year, and we heard from the residents. And when we heard from the residents, it was, again, brought up at the council that we should pause this project, relook at it, get creative. And, Representative Poulos showed us how that's done. And I wish we did, because now we started a process, the designs are done. Now, again, we have the money to make it whole, but now we're kind of being counterproductive on it at the same time. So, shout out to Representative Poulos on, obviously delivering for his town. And I'm very hopeful to see what happens from here forward. But again, this is why when things aren't going right, just like my business, you kind of pause it, you regroup, and you strategize. Our town is a community that really rallies together. So, I wish that's what happened back then, but here we are, good news, so stay positive on that. And one other thing, and I know we're going to talk about it later on with the preferential bidding procedures, but I just, as a council member, we asked if there's an issue about the preferential bidder, if there was an issue. And it was not brought to my attention until after I reached out to our corporate counsel that there was a bidding issue. So in the future, when there's issues like that, I think it's important that the council knows those issues and not certain council members, so that we could, as a whole, work with our town manager and obviously guide it in the right process. So, thank you.
Very good. Anybody else? I have a letter here that came to me, and I just want to preface it. I know this is election season, but this is not political. But I will read it because it is a demand for investigation and official report concerning our corporate counsel. And it came to me, and so I'm going to read some of it, not all of it. I'm going to give it to our town clerk to be part of the minutes, and then follow it up with a direction for Mark, Attorney Schoda. It's addressed to me, chairperson of the town council. Demand for investigation official report concerning Alex J. Riccardone. I represent Attorney Alex Riccardone, the town of Southington's corporate counsel, as detailed below. The Southington Democratic Town Committee recently levied a scurrilous and entirely baseless accusation of corruption against Attorney Riccardone that questions his ability to fulfill his role as Southington corporate counsel. We write that question. That question is okay. We write to respectfully request that the Southington Town Manager prepare and make public an official written report regarding this matter that will be a reassure to the public as to Attorney Riccardone's ability to faithfully serve Southington and enable him to clear his name. And then it goes on to say September 19th, the Southington Democratic Town Committee issued a press release accusing Attorney Riccardone of failing to disclose an ownership interest in a piece of property that the town of Southington purchased in 2019. And then it says, see the attachment A. The press release alleges that Attorney Riccardone should have disclosed his alleged ownership interest at the time of sale because he was the assistant town attorney for the town of Southington. The press release appeared to have been subsequently redacted in part and offers no explanation of why Southington elected officials published it to the public. These accusations are baseless, and then he goes on, refers us to attachment B. Accusations of this nature against Attorney Riccardone in his capacity as civil servant are worrisome. We believe that these accusations come at the behest of elected and appointed town of Southington politicians who are attempting to lay the groundwork to target Attorney Riccardone's public employment. United States Supreme Court precedent does not permit such a backdoor attack on Attorney Riccardone's employment. And then it goes on to say they cite a case that we can all read about later on. Southington Town and its elected and appointed officials cannot tarnish Attorney Riccardone's reputation and target his employment without respecting his rights, and the town of Southington has a legal obligation to protect a civil servant from illegal political influence of the vintage contained in the September 19th, 23rd press release. To that, we request a written assurance that Attorney Riccardone's public employment will be protected from unlawful political influence, both now and in the future. We further request that he be indemnified for all costs associated with defending his rights. We also submit that an official written report will serve the public's interest by restoring public confidence in Attorney Riccardone's exemplary service to his community, and will protect his future and reputation by disposing of thoughtless and baseless accusations that are now forever available on the internet. As an attorney in good standing in all Connecticut, Connecticut state and federal courts, Massachusetts Federal Court, and the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces, Attorney Riccardone is held in a higher ethical standard than any other Southington employee. He also has a separate ethical obligation by virtue of his service in the United States Air Force Judge Advocate General Corps. As a major in the accusations against Attorney Riccardone are true, they could jeopardize his law license across each of these jurisdictions and result in the revocation of his commission as a U.S. Air Force officer. An investigation and an official public report will clear Attorney Riccardone's name and any accusation of misconduct. To that end, we request that the town manager investigate and make an official written and public report to the town council outlining the negotiations, purchase, and sale of said property located at 1954 Mount Vernon Road, and making detailed factual findings about the involvement that Attorney Riccardone has had in connection with this sale of this property. The transactions we request, and that the report specifically confirm that as well. We stand ready and willing to cooperate with any investigation. Attorney Riccardone has served the town of Southington and his country faithfully and honorably for many years, and will continue to do so, permitting Southington elected and appointed officials to falsely accuse him of corruption as a way to circumvent this ruling, this Loudermill ruling, and carry out a political hit job is unappreciated. Finally, we also inform you that Attorney Riccardone is considering taking action against various Southington elected politicians and officials, including officers of the Southington Democratic Party, for defamation, and demand that the town of Southington comply with all of its obligations to preserve electronically stored information and any other evidence pertaining to the matters described herein, in anticipation of possible litigation under Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 37E, and you can read that. The obligation includes evidence pertaining to possible claims that Attorney Riccardone may have against third parties in this matter. And it's signed Cameron Atkinson, Esquire. He is Attorney Riccardone's attorney. Also included in this, my response just saying that we will, of course, comply with any requests, and also that there's 3 attachments or exhibits, A, B, and C, and I'm giving this to the town clerk's office. It's very important. I would ask that that in the transcribing of our minutes tonight, that the discussion on this should be verbatim minutes, because right now I'm going to turn to Mark, Attorney Schoda, our town manager. And
I don't use attorney anymore.
I know, you're beyond that now, you're bigger than that now. But anyway, Mark, would you just convene the investigation as
Oh, I
so
don't,
requested?
just to clarify, I don't do investigations.
No.
The manager's office doesn't do investigations. I'll talk to the chief tomorrow to get his advice.
Okay, very good. It looks as if it may have to go to the corruption unit of the state police for that kind of investigation if it goes to the state. I hope that our own local police officers don't have to deal with this at all. I'm
I'll
hoping
get
that.
the chief's advice and I'll follow.
Thank you, I think that's the best thing to do. All right, anything else, councilmatic communication? Let's move on, okay? So, report on special committees. Public Works.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had our meeting on Wednesday, October 4th, and some issues or some discussions that we had. The Chief of Police, Chief Daly, reported that the police department made 779 stops.
Whoa.
Over 26 roads throughout the town the last month. So I know some constituents have reached out to us. They're concerned about speeding that's happening throughout town. And I assure you that our men and women in blue are doing the job. They're out there, they're stopping folks from speeding. So, keep the emails coming. If there's an issue on your road, let us know, and we'll address it with the chief. He does a really good job to make sure that those streets are being policed. Ms. Turnquist spoke about, it's leaf season. Leaf season's coming up. I know some constituents have contacted me personally, and there's been stuff on social media. When does leaf pickup begin? The leaves are starting to come down with all this crazy rain we've been getting. So beginning on the 3rd of November until December 8th, every Friday between 12 noon and 4 p.m. at the transfer station, leaves could be dropped off to the transfer station, barring the Friday after Thanksgiving. They will not be there the Friday after Thanksgiving. So all this stuff will be on the Southington website. And, yeah, leaves and brush, correct. Between 12 and 4, from 11/3 until 12/8. And the schedule for leaves will begin on the 30th of October. Once again, you don't have to remember this. This will all be on the Southington website. But October 30th, they'll start with the southeast quadrant. On November 6th, the northeast quadrant. On November 13th, the northwest quadrant, and the 20th of November, the southwest quadrant. And if there's time, and if weather permits, they'll go back and do another pickup on the southeast quadrant. If you need to know which quadrant your road is on, all that information is also on the Southington website. We are looking for some temporary workers, if anyone's interested. Mr. Town Manager, $20 an hour.
Correct. 5 weeks of work, $20 an hour. Contact, online, contact our Human Resource Division.
Human Resources.
18 and above.
18 years old and above, $20 an hour. Ms. Turnquist also reported that there is going to be a household hazardous waste collection in Bristol this time on Saturday, November 18th, between 9 and 1 p.m. We are allowed to go to this because that's one of the towns that we share. When we have ours, Bristol's allowed to come here. So that's once again on the Southington website if you need a reminder of when that date and time is. Recreation Park, the pool is coming along. She believes that the liner is going to be installed possibly this week or next week. And they are pretty certain that we will be ready for the 2024 pool season. The paving at Panthorn Park is going to be done most likely at the end of October. A couple of other things. I think that's it, Madam Chair. That was, I don't know if I missed anything. Chris, did I miss anything? I think it's
Pretty thorough, yeah.
okay, thanks. Yep. Once again, go on the Southington website if you need more information with regards to leave.
Very good, thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the Library Building Committee. Jim?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I thought this was going to be a brief report, but it looks like it's going to be a little bit longer. We are on schedule. Steel is ordered and on the way for the building that we have presently. It should be in before the end of this month, I think around the 20th. We did obviously hear from Representative Poulos that we have more money. And so I want to make a couple of comments. First of all, when we did this design, we initially had asked the architect to consider the ability to add on to the building because we knew that it was not going to be the size we wanted. So from the very beginning, there were concessions made or there were discussions around how we would build that building so that it could be easily adapted to be a bigger building. As far as a pause goes, every professional that's on that board has told me that every day we wait, every hour that we wait costs money. The floor plan and the layout, we spent almost a year working with the library staff, the library board, the library director, DRA, and even Whiting Turner. So I feel, as the chairman of the board, that we have a wonderful layout. It was tight. The previous librarian told you in the meeting here that the only difference between the proposed library and the smaller one was it was tight. So having said that, I think we have a general agreement that we want to add to the south side of the building, a two-story addition that will basically bolt onto what we already have. I've spoken to the construction manager, Whiting Turner, and they've assured me that if we can make decisions quickly, that we can not really slip on the schedule. We'll do everything is staged. So some of the things we were going to do later, we'll do now. Some of the things we're going to do now, we'll have to wait. But in general, if we can get this thing worked out, the sooner the better. We should have a much better product. Also, the aesthetics, when the first design was done, we had some very beautiful things in the building plan. And as we went through to take out money, because we didn't have it for the square footage, we took a lot of these things out. So I don't think we have to reinvent the library, which is the good news. And I think that we're under the gun to make some hard decisions quick. We agreed that we would have a meeting next week, a special meeting on Wednesday, to discuss options and probable changes to the library. And so the construction manager and the architect asked for 2 weeks so they could get together and review the schedule, review the budgets, and look at things that were taken out and have some suggestions for us on that Wednesday night meeting. So again, I think we're all very appreciative of the money. I think it will go to a really good cause. I think the building will be much nicer than it was going to be, but I think it will be still very effective and very functional, and still on time. That's the big thing.
Very good. Anybody, I know because it's a hot topic, anybody have a question? Sure.
Just a few questions. So, and this might be more for the town manager, what is the process for you now signing? So the bonding commission approved.
They approved it on Friday.
So there must be grant
The paperwork,
documents
the
that-
paperwork will come to me, my office, with any of the requirements in there. We've had several of these before, so I don't expect anything to be too outrageous that's on there. Hopefully, when I get it, as soon as I get it, I'll turn it over to Jim Bowes, and the two of us will look at it to make sure everything's in order. I'll bring it to you the next council meeting, that it's available to me for you to vote on, to allow me to sign anything. Remember, I just can't sign on my own, I need your authority. So then I sign it. I've already talked to the bond council, and the bond council feels that there's not going to be an issue. I do have to appropriate the money through the Board of Finance, back to this board again, and appropriate it into the project. So I think it's going to be pretty quick once we get the paperwork. I don't expect the paperwork to be that delayed. Normally, these a couple weeks, I'll get the paperwork. It's got to be signed off on by the Attorney General's office, and then once that happens, after I sign it, the money will be available. I'll go to the Board of Finance, and then come to this
back to
board. And then, once it's appropriated, the chair then has the money available for the committee.
So is that the point, well, just another question. Will the bonding commission will there be language in the documents which states that the funds are to be used to increase the size of the library? Will they get that specific?
When Representative Poulos and I met, we also met with the head of the legislative head of bonding. And at that point, we actually put in the application that I signed. The application says that it's to be used for additional programming and additional square footage.
Okay.
And that's exactly what it was approved that way. So the chair is, not that chair, that chair is absolutely right. This gives us the flexibility to do things like that.
Right,
Very good.
okay. And I guess the other question then, Jim, is basically, I know at the Board of Finance meeting, Christine Longo from Whiting Turner,
Yes.
is she the project manager, Whiting Turner? So she gave a pretty deep presentation with all the figures and everything, and floor plans and site plans. So are they going to have to kind of go back to the drawing board?
I could actually answer that. Attorney Poulos, I don't know if he's still here. Attorney Poulos and I Attorney, I'm sorry, I made you an attorney now. Sorry, I demoted you. Representative Poulos. Yeah, everyone's a lawyer tonight. Representative Poulos and I did have discussions with the architect and the construction manager back, and I think Chris back in May-ish, and let them know that this process was moving forward, and we hoped for it. So they had been planning since May for this to happen. So that was one of the things that both Chris and I wanted to make sure that bond counsel, and Chris actually said in the paper already, bond counsel was fully aware of this. Whiting Turner, one representative from Whiting Turner and one representative from the architectural firm were also, and so since May, they've been working on assuming we got this, because we'd hoping to get it earlier and earlier, but anyway, the bottom line is when we got it, they were already hitting the ground running with it, because I notified them immediately once Chris called me.
Okay. So that's great. So I think it's really important for residents to know that at the special meeting next Wednesday, right? Next Wednesday, at 6 o'clock at the library, that's a really good meeting. If there's residents in town that want to have any kind of input as to, this is another opportunity for them to step up and get to the meetings and, really stay on top of what's going on.
As the chair did mention, we're in the process of pouring now, so decisions have to be made.
Right, because the
ASAP.
foundation isn't changing, obviously.
Well, it will, because you have to add on to a
Well,
foundation.
add on, but I mean, for the most part. Okay, thank you.
I did want to also comment that one of the things that we did in this project early on was we eliminated a lot of money for furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And that was the goal of the library board, raising donations from the public. Again, our goal is to increase the square footage with this grant, and so we're not going to take a lot of this money and put it toward furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So that having said that, we still want to keep our campaign rolling, and we really would like people to support the new library. So don't think because we got this extra money that we're flush with cash. We really need that to put steel and concrete in the ground, and we still need to fit that library out with equipment for the future.
Thank you. Jack?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess I'm just trying to now figure out, because I've bid a lot of projects over the years. So maybe this is a question to Mark Shota. How are the change orders going to work on a project like this?
The way it went out to bid was with preparation for this, they did it unit bidding. So when we had the bids all done, they were all done with units, because in case this indeed came through, we would be prepared for that. So therefore, we increased the unit pricing, depending on how many square foot that the building committee decides to do. It'd be additional square foot, unit pricing for steel, for the exterior, for the concrete. It's all done with unit pricing based upon the current contractors that we have.
Okay, so all the bids how many was it? 20-something, right? There was a bunch of
Well, I
them.
don't know if all of them are involved in this 4,000 square feet-ish that we're talking about, but yeah, there was 22, I think, packages.
Okay, and then I guess, it's probably an attorney question. Obviously, we're performance bonds, so my only concern is that, when I've ever done a bid, you do a bid bond that then turns to a performance bond. Now, because it's unit pricing, and I'm sure that there was a formula of what it was gonna roughly be and then could be extra, will you guys modify the performance bonds just to ensure that the work is being done?
Yeah, you have to do that, and it's not just that, Councilman. We'll have to go back to planning and zoning, because now you're adding to the square footage. And so you have to redo your site plan. It's a modification site plan. It's a much simpler process, but we still have to go through there. We have to go back to the building department, because there's building permits that we have to get. So it isn't simply, I sign a document and we're moving. We still have to do all that. We have to, so there's a lot of paperwork to be done, but I do think that using the time wisely, as the chair mentioned, if we use the time wisely, get it done, turn around pretty quickly, there shouldn't be much of a delay, if any. So we're hoping to do that.
Perfect, thank you.
Very good. Any other questions? We can move on. Let's go to open space. Paul, do you have your report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few small items. The first is that the work has begun on the community garden at the Pleasant Street location next to the Apollo. People driving by will see that the field has initially been cut. And in the weeks ahead, there's a plan to till the area and add some leaf compost from our leaf stockpile from the previous years, where the leaves are removed within the town. So more exciting stuff there on the community garden in the future. We are looking, the committee has also approved scavenger hunt this fall and winter again, so we'll be looking to see what we can do to provide a scavenger hunt of our open spaces again. Look for some communication there in the weeks ahead. And then lastly, Chris can confirm that, actually, Chris, why don't you go ahead and just give the update on the farm heritage with the work that you're doing there on the Pleasant View site with the Eagle Scout.
And Paul, I can also give an update on the farmland land preservation grant as well. So on the Leaf site, which is off of Bellevue Avenue, we are using a state grant, which is a farmland restoration grant that's restoring some farmland there. That was discussed at detail at the Open Space Committee as well. So that work has progressed. All the topsoil was delivered and now spread. So we're just putting final touches on that with some samples from the state comes out and takes some samples to make sure the soil is growable, which was the intent of the grant in the first place. So that's number one. And number two, on Pleasant Street, the council, I think it was the last council, had adopted the master plan for Pleasant Street property, and part of that vision was we were trying to add animals back in there. One day, maybe horses, which were originally there, but we're going to start small with some chickens. So, they're not horses, but they're chickens.
Led us
And
up to the horses, and then the chicken
and no rooster.
Sorry.
So they will be, the Apollo students, there's an animal helpers program, they will be doing that, and there is an Eagle Scout that's actually building the coop for the chickens on that site, right next to DePaulo on the town property there. And we got approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals for that exception for the chickens to be raised on site there. So exciting things on both the Leaf property and the Pleasant Street property.
It is exciting. I didn't mean to make light of chickens, please. I want to be politically correct.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Anything else, Paul?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, very good. Anybody else have anything about special committees or anything? I don't think so. Let's just go on. Town Attorney's Report.
Madam Chair, I'd like to introduce to the council our new Director
Oh,
of Planning
I'm
and
sorry.
Community Development. Jeremy, why don't you come on up?
Hi.
Wanna- You have 15 minutes to tell us your life story.
Oh, boy. I'm not going to take that much time out of your evening. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the opportunity to work for the town of Southington. Been here about 3 weeks. All good experiences so far. Most recently, I served as a planning and zoning official for the town of East Hampton for about 8 years, where I was the planner, the zoning enforcement officer, and the wetlands enforcement officer. So that's my most recent background. Connecticut native. Spent my life and career here. So I'm excited for my next chapter to be here in Southington.
Well, welcome. We're very happy.
It is
Thank
one of the
you.
busiest positions we have in town, so congratulations.
There's no question about that, besides yours, but there's no question. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, thanks for coming.
I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead.
That's okay. Next I have is our annual thing. This is a recommendation for leaf pickup. You will see a memo from our Public Works Director. As usual, she is recommending to you all three of the contractors who bid. We use them in obviously the order lowest to highest. She may not use all of them, but as the chair of the Public Works Committee and I were talking about this morning, we're getting closer and closer to being self-sufficient. As you know, we add a truck almost every year in our public, in my capital budget, and we're getting to the point where we'll be self-sufficient very soon. So in this particular case, we're recommending all of those be approved in reverse order. Any questions on that?
Yes.
So Mark, quick question. How many contractors did we use in the past? Do you know offhand before you start adding the new equipment?
Remember, some contractors only have one truck, so it's going to be.
How many trucks were we subbing out
I
roughly?
think we're well over 10 trucks in the old days. 10 to 13 trucks, I think it was. But yeah, we're getting down to that point. It's important to be self-sufficient, but it's also important to have the subcontractors there, because most of you know these trucks are good trucks, but sometimes they do have failures and we do have to call people in. So in this particular case, I do believe, and you'll see probably in my capital budget next year, another truck. So we're gonna get to the point, probably in the next couple of years, we'll be self-sufficient.
Yeah, so I'm so happy to see this moving forward. I've come to council meetings before I was on the council, and I always advocated for using the proper technology and the proper trucks. The trucks that are vac-alls that are sucking up the leaves whole, they fill up real fast. So the town's equipment that they've been investing in is shredding, the leaves, like our neighboring town, Plainville. So I'm hoping that as we continue to add these units, that, there may be a potential to make multiple passes through our town, because this is equipment that is faster, more efficient, and obviously gives us a better bang for our buck. So I would love to see that long-term, rather than just the normal schedule, because I think, don't get me wrong, Plainville's smaller, but I met with their public works director years ago, and I think they make 6 passes through the town. Smaller crew, but at the same time, they've been using this type of technology or methodology of the leaf pickup. So I'm very hopeful that, this, as we continue to add units, we could also increase the productivity as well.
Absolutely. Mother Nature has to assist too. As last year, I think we did 2 sweeps through everything, and Zone 1, I think, was 3 sweeps, but Mother
Perfect.
Nature was with us. When Mother Nature's against us, that's when we get into trouble. Any questions on that? The next item is the temporary labor. As you know, we've been trying to hire as many people as possible for $20 an hour. It saves us money. Last year, we got a lot of them, but just in case we don't get the ones we want, we still want to grant to the temporary labor total logistics for the sum of $26.73. And we won't know if we need them, obviously, until we get to that point. Any questions on that?
Not a question, just a request maybe from the town clerk. The leaf schedule and the extra hours for the transfer station are available on the town site, but you kind of mine a little bit to find it within the Public Works Department. Can we put that as a news feed, because that's obviously something that many residents
Once
are.
I get the information, we can put it as a
It's al-
news.
and
It
it's
just
already
went on
there?
tonight. It just went on tonight, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it just went on tonight, so you'll have it. It's on there now. so you
Okay.
can-
Perfect, thank you.
Very good.
I have one quick question. So what does it break down to be with all the bennies or payroll-related expenses at the $20 versus the
No,
$26?
these are part-timers, so they have no bennies.
Workers' comp?
Yeah, well, they're not added to our work, they're the workers' comp, but it doesn't affect our workers' comp fees. We pay the same amount, so it should not.
So we're not paying based on the payroll dollars?
It's such a small amount, it's ineffective. It's such a small, when you're talking about the number of people we have on our payroll right now, it's a minimal number. So if you're talking about total, $2, $3, maybe at the most.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it'll be a net saving of about $3-4?
We think about $3 or $4.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
More importantly, it's more reliable when they work for us as opposed to work for a third party who may not be able to get the people for us, so that's what we're doing for. I do not have executive session tonight, Madam Chair, so you're all set.
Good. Now, excuse me, town attorney's report. Pardon me.
I was disappointed,
I was a little nervous tonight.
disappointed the town manager took my spot.
I
Let
understand.
it go.
I understand.
I have nothing to report, Madam Chair.
Very good. Thank you so much. I heard that one. We're going to open a public communication. We are here to listen. And you will have 5 minutes. Please identify yourself, and let's go.
Evening, everyone. My name is Mike Early, 80 Winding Ridge. I come to you as a resident, but I also come to you as the chairman or chairperson of the Southington Housing Authority. I'd like to let you know that Housing Authority is doing very good. And I attribute all this to our new executive director we have, is Kevin Meyer. I don't know if everyone knows, we had a new director as of November of last year. And Kevin is doing a fantastic job. He comes to us from ESPN, where he worked overseas and came here without any experience, but I'd just like to let you know a few of the things that he has accomplished already in his short term. We first started, and Kevin and I meet like weekly, go over things, especially the agenda and stuff. I signed some checks because one of our residents, councilman, is like 91 years old and she can't get there to sign during the COVID. So I take over the check writing sometimes. And the first thing he did, we talked about the interest rates. And we were getting a 0.02 interest rate for our savings. Kevin went and got it changed to 3.9 in March. Didn't like that, went in April and got it to 4.5. So now we're getting 4.5 on our interest, which is making us a lot more than we had before. He also looked into grants, which we had not gotten a grant in 2 or 3 years. He went and just received a $146,000 grant for curbing and sidewalks to be done as we do it, then we're going to submit it to the state, and it's a big help. He also went with the tenants and got their electric rates down. Took them, got their rates, for delivery and stuff. They love it. He also went with them and got a rental rebate from the comptroller to the tune of $81,000. So they are receiving checks for that. He also, the biggest thing we had too was our audit reports, which I'm sorry to say, were not done for 3 years. We were back in 2020, 21, and 22. Kevin got with the auditors in March, sat down, gave him all the information he could give them because some of the stuff was gone, some of the stuff was locked in the computers we couldn't get out. Just to let you know, we got the report last week, and the report praises his whole staff and him for what they've done. Some of the stuff was neglected, some of the stuff they didn't get, had some recommendations like doing things online better, whatever. Nothing though was against him and his staff. They do have some reprimands for some of the people in the past staff, but to let you know, we had no fines, nothing from the state. We're good, we're clear, and we're on estimate for this year. We have an extension, but we get that every year. So that got cleared up, along with the financials where he was working with our accountant. And the accountant and him, the last administration couldn't do QuickBooks. I even had my wife willing to go down and help with them, but they didn't do it. We were 2 or 3 years behind submitting that to the state. Kevin got with our accountant, they did away with the QuickBook, and he has now a new financial server that they all together. The accountant loves it. It's just simple. All of our finances go to him, and everything is done right on time. So that's completed. He also, inspections, we had not done inspections in 3 years. Kevin went personally to all 221 units and did the inspections and also went back last week to re-go over stuff that we didn't get done. He did that with him and the maintenance man. He also, the tenants, like I say, in the last 2 years, I've had 2 phone calls with complaints about Kevin. Last year, we were getting a dozen, maybe 2 dozen a month, easy. The chairman, not myself, I was not chairperson, but I have gotten 2, which Kevin, I let him handle it. He took it over, no problem. We're gonna have some, but the tenants are absolutely, they're clapping at meetings for him, which I've never seen at a meeting in my life. When he said he gave them an $80,000 rebate on their rent, they were very happy. I don't see anybody coming there. Last year, we used to get a lot of people coming to our meetings. Mr. Perry, you were there and stuff. I don't know. Nobody comes to see how great it's going because the meetings are done in an hour. We're out the door. The tenants are happy. Everybody loves this man. The other last thing he has done, which we just got a word of last meeting, is we are now going to be 100 fully occupancy, which hasn't been done in 10 years. Wow. So this is a man that I do not want to lose. I do have issues because I'm trying to get a contract with him for 5 years. Our board, you might know now, is split. I have 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and 1 unaffiliated. I've been trying since June to get Kevin into a 5-year contract. Him and I both want it. He wants it. I have 1 more meeting this year, and hopefully we can do it with this board on the 23rd or 24th. Otherwise, we might have a whole new board and have to start from scratch, and he's getting frustrated, and so am I. So I'm asking you to help me with your constituents, talk to them, say, get to the meeting, and let us vote on this so we can keep this man. The people need him, we need him, the tenants like him, and he's doing a fantastic job. So I ask for your help, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. That's great news. Great. Who's next?
Hi, Katie Wade, 39 Madeline Lane. I wanted to talk to you about something kind of personal tonight, and I hate that. But it's also going to be viewed as political, and there's nothing I can do about it. I've been nervous about coming to speak on this matter. Then finally this morning, I found out my concerns were kind of a bipartisan territory. You guys are top of government. You have a lot of sway in appointments, and I would think nominations for people in your respective parties. You help set the tone for our town. I'm one of the people you've appointed. I serve as a commissioner on the Parks and Recreation Board. This is the first appointment I've ever had. I really enjoy this work. I think the Parks Department does good things, runs good programs, central to community life, and that's important to me. My appointment is up soon. I hope to stay. In my time on the board, we have functioned in a non-political way. But a few weeks ago, there was an incident that leads me to be unsure how it will be moving forward. I've given this a lot of thought, and obviously I'm going to tell you what happened, but first, I'd like to tell you something that, to be clear, I hadn't planned on sharing, but in light of recent events, feels like it needs to be addressed as the beginning of a concerning pattern. So I know I'm respectful when I come and speak at town meetings, and I know this because I make the effort to be so. So when I spoke at a forum on the town's budget last March, a forum that was held specifically for the Board of Finance to hear from residents on the budget, I know I wasn't rude. Also, there's a video if you need to check. During my comments, I addressed a specific member of the board saying, Mr. Morrison, at election time, you put up signs that said you support students and teachers. I hope to find out that's true. After the meeting, while still in the auditorium at DePaulo Middle School, Mr. Morrison walked past me, turned around, came back, and put his face inches from mine to let me know how rude he thought I was. It felt like the intention was to intimidate me. People who witnessed this came to check on me. They described it as aggressive. I didn't like that he did it. I feel an ability to control your emotions is probably helpful in town government, but I would have moved on if not for the more recent incident, which I felt was also fairly intimidating. I wouldn't have mentioned this. But 2 weeks ago, I received a text message from a friend with a screenshot from a local Facebook page. There was a post from a woman I did not know sharing a picture of my children and me. I felt pretty unsafe for my kids. We called the police. I worried about the kind of things I imagine most parents would worry about in this situation. I wanted to know if it was a sex offender, because who puts images of other people's children on the internet? I wanted to know where else they had put pictures of my young kids, which I still have no way of knowing. The picture they obtained was up for over 12 hours on a page with 1,000 strangers. Imagine my surprise upon learning that not only does the newest member of the Parks and Rec Board, Todd Ritchie, moderate this page it was posted to, the person who posted the picture is pretty closely connected to him. They do not hold any political appointment I'm aware of, so I won't share their name. To be clear, I did not comment or interact with this post in any way. It's just weird behavior, like really creepy. In the picture itself, my children and I are in Cape Cod near a sign that says, "Keep abortion safe and legal." Now, because the person who shared this photo is not my friend, she never got the chance to see the story that made that picture meaningful. So let's be friends tonight, guys. I once lost a baby so late in my pregnancy that my doctor couldn't perform the procedure to save my life. So I'm grateful there was somewhere to go, but I'm also pretty angry I have to share that. I understand I'm involved in local politics. Mostly I'm a stay-at-home mom who volunteers a lot. Now it seems like it must have been really important to those involved to win whatever imaginary fight they are having with me. So just because I don't want them to be left unsatisfied, I want to be very clear. You won. You made me scared for myself and my children. Excuse me. I would be scared for the type of community I'm raising them in, but my experience here has shown me that more people are decent, that more people want decency and normalcy for Southington. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Katie. Is there anyone else that would like to speak tonight? Do we have anybody else? Cheryl is coming up.
Yeah, sorry, Cheryl Lounsbury, 175 Berlin Avenue. I just have to talk a little bit about the library. Southington has been known to be penny wise and pound foolish many times. And I just want to say that this library will be built now. And I understand time is money. And I understand your need to want it to be done quickly. But the building will be in existence for 50, 60, 70 years. Most of us may be gone, and it'll be our children and our grandchildren. And how it looks in the town of Southington really is going to define what this town looks like. I think we made a big mistake years ago about not leaving the police station or building a new police station downtown. I think we made a big mistake in the high school with not putting a swimming pool in the high school that affected many kids going to college, even now. And I don't want to see us make the same mistake with the library that's going to be here long after we are and have it change the dynamic of the town. So the outside of the building is important, that it blend with a New England town. I think with the old Darrenowski School across the street, with the churches in town, with our town green, there's got to be some kind of a symmetry there. So I ask you, Jim, and the building committee to take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Good evening, John Marinholtz, detective with the Sellington Police Department and president of the Sellington Police Union Law Enforcement Alliance of Sellington. The Sellington Police Union historically has not participated in election politics on the local level. The union has endorsed candidates running for election on the state level. However, we choose not to get involved with elections within the same town as we serve. We are right in the middle of an election campaign season, and we are not oblivious to the fact that a big topic on everyone's mind is public safety. This is evident not only with Sellington, but within the entire state of Connecticut, United States. It is true that both Democrats and Republicans are speaking about what one or the other will do to try and correct the issues at hand, and I am hopeful that only positive things will come of this. After all, the Sellington Police Department's policies and procedures are dictated from state laws and mandates, not from within local leadership. However, the union executive board and I do want to make it very clear that information that is made to be public coming from within the department should come from either the chief of police or by members of the police commission, not from political candidates seeking election. Recent mailings were sent out to the citizens of the town of Sellington with 2 retired members of the police department wearing their full police uniforms was a little alarming. I'm sure they chose to include photos of themselves wearing those uniforms because of the pride they have representing the Sellington Police Department, as do all of us who wear it. But we feel maybe some in the public may misconstrue that these 2 candidates are actually 2 current police officers running for office, or they represent the police department as a whole with what they say to the public. I just want to reiterate, these candidates do not speak for the police department or its officers. We have the chief of police and the board of commissioners for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Detective. Is there anyone else? Going once? Going twice? Thank you, everyone. All right, let's move on in the agenda. Old business, action on the modification of the preference building procedure ordinance.
How do you want the language to read in that in the motion? Anything or just?
Well, it's actually, he's here, so the actual language, I'll let the town attorney speak on the motion, how the language you have to read.
Thank you.
Sure. The motion would be that the council adopt the proposed changes as presented prior to the public hearing related to Article 3, preferential bidding procedures, and more specifically, the changes that were made to Section 118-12.
He's aforementioned. If I do so move, or do you want me to read into the?
You could say as, you make the motion.
I'll make a motion as presented by the town attorney.
Do I have a-
Second, Madam Chair.
I have a second and a motion. Open up for discussion. Anyone have anything to say about this? Yes, Chris?
One of the things that I heard from our second speaker tonight, it's a little troubling that that's the first time I've heard that information. I don't know about the rest of you, but I didn't know anything about the fact that the taxes were removed and it was modified. And I know we spoke at the council level of when this originally came up, what's the urgency? Why is this issue being brought forward? And we, at that time, weren't even really told about the fact that it had to do with a bid at the library. Afterwards, I know Jack mentioned it earlier, that talking to our corporate counsel, that's where we found out a little bit more of the history of that bid. Even still, I didn't know till tonight the other piece about the whole modification of the bid in the first place. So I don't know if anyone else realized that before tonight. I'm looking around. Madam Chair, did you realize that, or?
Not fully.
Okay. So, again, it's troubling to me that we're hearing information for the first time tonight, and that it's on the agenda for action, when, you know, tonight was the public hearing, we heard from the public. I also thought our first speaker Cheryl did a great job outlining, maybe reaching out directly to some of the small businesses to get their thoughts, because, you know, I know they could have come tonight, but people are very busy, and we didn't hear from a lot of our local businesses tonight either. So both speakers, I thought, made some great points. So I just want to thank them for coming forward and sharing some of that information, because, again, looking around, I don't think many of us knew some of the information that was shared tonight.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll make some comments on this ordinance as a whole, and that is that I've been very vocal over the years that I am actually against the ordinance altogether. But I do understand the ordinance committee's desire to change the wording on this specific paragraph to make it more, to make the intent of the ordinance more clear and easy to understand and more beneficial for local businesses. It clearly defines who the ordinance is intended to help. So I think that the change is definitely a positive one. And the first speaker wanted to make sure that the intent of the ordinance was kept in place, and she also said that she did not read the changes. I'm sure that if she did, she would be in agreement that the changes are a positive one. And secondly, I'm unfamiliar with the actual details that caused this situation to come about. But if this change in the ordinance was in fact in place prior to the library bid, we wouldn't be having this conversation, and the individual who came up this evening would have been the winning bidder. So I thank all those involved. I know Councilwoman DiPaolo and Councilman Dietzick worked together on this, and I think it's a positive change for the ordinance as a whole.
Thank you, Tom. Anybody? Yes.
Madam Chair. So, yes, and I know I was not at the last meeting, the language, I was able to research 4 or 5 towns, and the language that I believe that we are putting forth will help our local business owners. It will make, it firms it up, and I think, and working with Councilor Dietzick, I think we felt pretty comfortable that we're covering a lot of bases. So I guess my only concern, and Councilor Lombardi speaking to this, it looks like the ordinance committee did touch on this as to whether we should have this ordinance. So I guess that's where my questions lie. I firmly believe we need to take care of our local businesses, and that's the intent, obviously, and I do not waver from that. And I think the language that we have would help that. But I guess when I see the ordinance committee did speak about the cost to the town of Southington, and if the ordinance was discouraging aggressive building by local businesses, and then also the minutes reflect discussion regarding other towns that have eliminated local building preference. So the only question I really raised tonight is, do we need to move forward this quickly on it? Are we, if we don't move forward quickly, are we hurting business owners right now? And I don't want to do that. I don't want to prolong this, but I'm just wondering if we're thinking we might not need this ordinance. You know, should we make the change to this tonight? Or should we just try to take a step back, look at it as a whole, and what, I do like Cheryl's idea of reaching out to local businesses. I think that's an excellent suggestion. If there's some businesses we could reach out to, and do they feel this ordinance is something that we should have? Does it impact their bidding? So, that's where I'm struggling with it a little, but
I want to
do understand the need to.
Madam Chair?
Bill has raised his hand.
Can I just clarify one of my comments,
Yeah.
please? I couldn't go forward without clarifying. I wanted to state that I'm against this bidding, the overall bidding ordinance as a whole, not because I don't care about Southington businesses.
I know that.
I'm just of the opinion that I feel that all towns should eliminate these ordinances, because local businesses would benefit if there was more bids. If Meriden and Cheshire and Plainville had open bidding processes, I think that would be more beneficial for our local businesses and the businesses from other towns. I just think, and I just wanted to clarify my comment to say that I think without an ordinance, it would be more beneficial for businesses in general. But
And
I just wanted to
along
clarify that.
Along that
Madam Chair.
point, I wonder if.
Hang on one second.
I know that Simsbury has eliminated it. when I did some research, that came up. I'm just wondering if there's other towns out there, you know, if we want to take the time, you know, how much time do we want to take? Who would research that? Maybe there are a lot of towns that are doing the same thing that we're doing.
Paul, would you just hang on, please, because Bill had his hand up first, okay? Hang on, Paul, all right? Bill?
Yeah, no, Chris, you brought it up, so did Jack. I mean, I guess you're right, this was kind of fast-tracked. And I think part of the reason it was fast-tracked was because, you know, normally we get our charge as the ordinance committee from the council, which comes from somewhere else. I raised the identical issue in 2017. So when the issue came from Corporation Council to me as the chair of the ordinance, I immediately knew exactly what the issue was and how to fix it. I wanted to push it because you have people, the second speaker tonight, he captures exactly the issue. The guy's paying $350,000 in taxes, and under our definition, he's not a Sullyton business. So I don't know how many there are out there. Maybe there's none, maybe there's 10. And that was really why I wanted to push it to us. I went to the public hearing. I mean, I don't see, we can tackle the larger issue of whether we should have one, but at least we have it on the books. So let's just let the bidders, let it be applied as it should be.
Right.
Okay, all set, Bill?
Yep. Thank you.
Yep, Paul, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's a lot of good discussion on this topic, and I would like to recognize that I think most everybody here, I would agree with the comments that were made tonight. What I would just offer is that, you know, I would consider this an evolutionary step where I think what's being done tonight and what's been proposed by Councilman Dietzick and Councilman DiPaolo is maybe a first step. Rather than it being the be-all, end-all, I think we heard tonight we had a valuable business owner come out and talk about a gray area in our ordinance. We heard that you know, as part of the one of the bidding processes, that there was this gray area, and I think it's incumbent upon us tonight to address the gray area first, and that puts in place a nice, a clean ordinance that we have two respected attorneys here sitting on the dais have worked on that addresses the loophole, addresses the gray area, if you will. And then if we want to look at whether keeping this ordinance on the books, you know, permanently in the future, as Councilman Lombardi and others, maybe Councilman Palmieri, Councilperson DiPaolo had mentioned, that's another issue that we can take up, you know, starting, for example, at the next meeting or with the next council. But at the very least, we remove the gray area that's been found in the ordinance. And, you know, these things happen, these things occur in the course of business, but I think it would be irresponsible of us tonight to not take action in at least buttoning up that gray area first, and then we can agree to maybe move forward and do, you know, as Councilperson DiPaolo mentioned, maybe an analysis to find out what the benefit is. We heard somebody come up and testify and say we should talk to some of the business owners. I think that's all a great idea, and I think we should follow up with it and do some further work to find out the validity of this ordinance as a whole in the future. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone else? Let Jack speak first, Chris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, as a small business owner, I've actually bid a lot of things. I used to bid a lot of things in the town of Southington. Since I've been on the council, I've recused myself from bidding on any of this stuff, just for transparency purposes. So I can say that I had the opportunity several times to match bids, and sometimes it's within a few dollars. So there's a certain percentage that the bids have to be within to be able to match. So it's not like somebody could just shoot a high number. I get some of the concerns of, well, maybe we're not going to get a competitive number because somebody knows that they could have a little bit, you know, extra in there. But I've won bids over the years on a penny, you know. So sometimes the bids come very close, and you know, at City of New Britain, I won a bid for their services at their municipal buildings by a penny, you know, per month. And imagine if I was, you know, let's say that contractor was in New Britain and they lost it to a penny. That's, you know, and they could have matched it. So I'm definitely in favor of this. It gives an opportunity, it's a tool for our local businesses. And, you know, I'm just kind of a little upset because, you know, like the speaker stated, the second speaker,
you know, my company doesn't own, or my business doesn't own the real estate property. It's owned by an LLC. And we've had the opportunity to match, you know, so get back to the first speaker, the spirit and the intent of this original bid was that, and the town has practiced that all these years. So I guess this was a tough lesson for us to learn, and I feel bad. And I just don't know why it wasn't brought to the council. You know, Mark, I just don't know why it didn't come to us. This was a very important issue, obviously, and it should have came to us and not certain individuals, and then brought in, and then I had to do my due diligence to figure out that there was an issue here. You know, this is obviously very important for us to know these things, and you do a phenomenal job telling us a lot of things. I'm not, but in the future, you know, when there's something like this, and then, you know, being told that the contract, or the Whiting Turner legal counsel was this, and it's like, I don't know, I have obviously some concerns with that.
That's not the case. What happened was Whiting, as you know, Whiting Turner is a construction manager at risk. They handle all the subcontractors. The town of Southington doesn't do anything with, we have a contract with Whiting Turner, we have a contract with the architect. Whiting Turner handles all the subcontractors. When Whiting Turner asked for an opinion, our legal counsel, town of Southington legal counsel, gave the opinion to Whiting Turner, and Whiting Turner went with that opinion. So it wasn't a Whiting attorney. I don't know what Whiting Turner's attorney did, but I can tell you, our corporation counsel gave a legal opinion, which I agree with, that under the wording of that, that's why it's being corrected today, that was the case, that we couldn't go the route that we normally would, because I can tell you, we have in the past done that. But in this particular case, the corporate counsel reviewed it, and the corporate counsel made the right decision, that was required, that you needed to actually own real estate in the town of Southington. And that, like I said before, that wasn't used before.
My only concern is then, if that's the case, then this has been done or allowed multiple years. So we've obviously did a disservice to other bidders, you know, that, you know, we didn't treat fairly. So I guess my concern is, I guess this started off prior to me being on the council, but it started off totally wrong. And at that point in time, we had, I don't know who our town attorney was at the time, but they looked at this, they green-lighted this. And then obviously we've enforced it and we allowed this to happen. So again, the intent, the spirit, and then obviously the practice has been that way. So I'm just a little upset about that, that's all.
I appreciate that. Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
So going into tonight, and Bill and Val, I think, did a great job with the language that they wrote. But they wrote it based upon the issue that we perceived was the trouble, which we heard tonight, it was the secondary issue. The primary issue was allowing a company to modify the bid after it was originally received, which I didn't even know myself until this evening. So no matter what this language is that we adopt, that's not going to address the real issue, which was the modification of a bid after it was received from the town of Southington. So again, getting back to...
Don't confuse received by the town of Southington with a contract. You have a construction manager at risk. Okay, you got to understand that's how it works. We pay that person a fee to run the project. They have to run it at risk, which means that if it goes over, they're responsible for it.
Fair point.
We don't have a contract with any of the subcontractors.
Fair point, then I'll change it to for a town of Southington project.
Okay.
Okay? That's not my point. My point is that the bid was allowed to be modified after it was received, regardless of who received it for a work in the town of Southington. At that meeting, the corporate counsel mentioned it could be, and I don't know, could be costing the town money, this bid. I don't know. I asked for more information then. We still don't have it. So I go back to, again, we had a public hearing tonight. We had only 2 speakers come forward. I think they both made some good points. I don't understand the urgency to act on this tonight, considering that there's still unanswered information from the ordinance committee, plus information from tonight that we don't have answers to. So I'd like to make a motion to table this for action.
There's a motion on the floor.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Chaplinsky,
No.
Del Santo,
No.
DiPaolo,
No.
Dedzek,
No to table.
Lombardi,
No to table.
Morelli,
No to table.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Triano.
No to table, thank you. May I have, there's another, the motion is
There's a
on
motion on the floor.
floor already, that's correct. And I just wanted to put my 2 cents in before we call the motion, and that is that this change in this ordinance is to correct and clarify a small aspect of this that has a direct bearing on our businesses in town. We're not dealing with the full picture, Chris, as you have said. We're not dealing with major changes. That will be handled at a future point. Perhaps we will continue with the ordinance, perhaps we won't. But right now, immediately right now, we have a situation that we need to clarify. It's not a big deal. It's to clarify the existing ordinance. Future councils will have the ability to change as they see fit, but right now, we have this in front of us. And so, having said that, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Dedzek,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Based on the points I made earlier, no.
Perry,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes, thank you, everybody. It passes. Our tax refunds, Jack?
Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Leaf pickup.
Leaf pickup, I'm sorry.
Forget about
I'm
leaves.
getting excited about the end of the meeting here. Okay, item B, action on the recommendation for fall leaf pickup, back all rental.
Motion to approve all the bidders as recommended by our Director of Public Works.
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Who seconded it?
Val seconded.
Val seconded, okay, very good. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion,
Aye.
Oh, Paul was a.
yeah,
Yes.
carries unanimously. Thank you, Paul. You're in Germany,
We have
what
to
can
go
I say? Item C, action on the recommendation for fall leaf pickup, temporary labor.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. New business, tax refunds?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the tax refunds that were presented in our packet.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Item B, appointment to the Board of Ethics alternate. It is a Republican appointment, and I would ask for a motion.
Madam Chair, motion to table. I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
I want to thank you all for that. We thought we had somebody, and we don't. So.
Motion to adjourn, Madam Chair.
I have a
Second.
motion to adjourn.